Hey, what up guys, it's Kate up here. In this video, I'm going to talk about design interviews. Basically, any kind of questions that you will be asked in a design interview settings, and that is what we're going to talk about. And it doesn't really matter if you are, a junior designer or if you're a freelancer, you're trying to get your first client and you wonder, how can I prepare myself, right? What kind of questions are they going to ask me and what should I prepare? And this is what this video is for. And for myself, like I've been to countless interview before in my 10 years career, and every single week I will talk to you about like 3 to 4 clients. And some of these clients, they're looking for full-time job. Some of these clients, they're looking for contract work. So, and a lot of these clients, like I also talk to, big tech companies and like Facebook, Google, Apple, and all that kind of thing. So I think I can't even count it, but like if I have to count it, I'll say that I've been interviewed by over 600 companies in my career so far, and like 600 different companies that interview me. So I would say that I know quite a bit about this stuff, and like I'm like a robot right now. Whenever people talk to me about my design interviews and things, I already have like the model answer in my mind. So I would like to share that with you guys, and this kind of answer did help me to get quite a few clients. So that may be helpful, and hopefully that this is the guide that if you're thinking about this, especially if you're a junior, I'm pretty sure that you're pretty nervous about design interview. So this may be the guide for you. And so before I jump right into all of those questions and stuff, then I do want to give a quick shout out to Hostinger. So Hostinger is a web hosting platform. So if you want to use any kind of if you want to host your websites, then you definitely need the hosting server, and Westinger is the server that I've been using for the past 10 years. And they're not paying me to make this video right now, but if every single sale that I can help them to get, I get $80 from the sale. So if you want to help out this channel, I'm really appreciating that you use their service, because it's gonna really help out this channel. And I don't just sell it if I don't love it, and the reason why I sell it to you guys is because I really do love it. And I think that on the entire internet, you're not gonna find another service provider, hosting server that can beat their price in their service. So if you go to just do some research, right? Any kind of service provider, they will charge about like $5 to $10 to host your website, but with Hostinger, it's only less than $1. So that is just a crazy deal. And their server, like the speed is very important as well, and their speed is very fast. That's what I'm saying. Like if you hosted your website with like a free service, then your website may load very slowly, but like with them, it's very fast and it's very good for the price. So it's just crazy. My code in here, but let's just put without my code right now. Like I'm just gonna show you some of the plans. So 1 month is $14. It doesn't make any sense. Don't use that. But like if you do like 12 months, then it get to 35. That's a pretty good deal. But if you get 24 months is 38, so you get a double for like a few bucks more. That is starting to get insane. But if you get 48 months is only $47 for 48 months for like this full service provided by Hostinger. And it's just an insane deal. That's why I've been using them, because they're literally the cheapest, and they have like 24/7 support as well. Quite a couple of times I have some questions about my hosting, then I just ping them and they help me to solve all of those questions. So their service is just very good. Customer service is great, and also like if you just put in my code Caleb, and you get a few bucks less, so that will help me to get some money as well, right? Like just help out the channel. Again, if you're hosting any websites, I think it's a no-brainer to use Hostinger. I'm just gonna leave it. I'm gonna leave that link in the description down below. So if you want to sign up for the service, I believe that you can save a lot for hosting your website, and you help out the channel as well. Definitely don't forget to use my code Caleb, because if not, then I don't get the $80. So that's it. Going back to the video. So one thing that I do want to say is, your mindset matters a lot more than this answer that you can give your potential company. So I think your mindset is definitely very important. So you want to have a mindset first, right mindset first. And I made a video 2 years ago to talk about the design interview mindset. What should you do before you even go to the interview? So I think mindset is very important. I made that video already, so definitely check out that video before you even watch this one. And again, link down below to that video. And to sum up that video, just quickly, is you have to be very confident in yourself, in your skill, in your whatever, and that is the first thing, right? Before you go to the interview, you have to be very confident with yourself. So mindset again. And the second is just remember this interview, it's not an interrogation. So they're not gonna judge you based on your answer, but just think about, this whole interview is more like a conversation, right? You're just having a conversation with somebody. So think of it like a conversation, like a ping pong thing, right? You shoot them a question, they give you some answer, they shoot you a question, you give them some answer kind of thing. So a conversation, not an interrogation. So now let's get into all the most common questions that they're going to ask you. So I think the list of these questions are, some of these questions are more focused on product design, and which is what I do. And that's why if you're a product designer, if you're a UI and UX designer, this video may be more relevant, but I believe that a lot of these questions will apply to many different designers. So I'm gonna tell you, like, based on the question, I'm gonna tell you my answer, so you know how I'm gonna respond when I'm asked this kind of thing. So let's get started. Oh, by the way, this may be a little bit long, but just bear with me because I want to cover as much as possible. So let's get started. So the very first question that they're gonna ask you is gonna be the good old classic, tell me about yourself. And when they ask you about this question, it's not really to know more about yourself. I mean, of course, you can tell them about your hobbies and all that, but like what they're really trying to get out of you is what can you do for us, right? What kind of service can you provide for us? So your whole question should be around that kind of thing, right? Like, and also don't repeat what you already have on the resume. That just make the whole thing to be very time wasting. So that is my answer to this question. So yes, about myself, and I've been, a designer for the past 10 years, and I started my career working for a few other design agencies, and one more popular is called MetaLab, and where I worked for a lot of big tech companies when I was working there. So I learned about, working with a bunch of other designers. So that is, some of my experience. And then after MetaLab, I kind of branch out and do my own thing, and I've been contracting with a lot of different startups in the States for the past 5 years, and I work with many different clients. So I work with many different teams in many different industries. And if you look at my portfolio, a lot of my work are really focused on the web product. So I'm really focusing on building web app right now, mostly the UI and UX for a lot of those web apps. So if you check out my work, 99% of those work are entirely from me, because when I'm contracting, I really bring a project from start to finish. So there's a lot of experience gained when I'm working with clients like that. So I'm really focusing on product design right now, and also I do a lot of development work as well. Like, there are quite a few projects that I design for. I also handle the front-end development for those. So basically, I'll take the project and then I'll develop the front end for those, and just make sure that all the visual is pixel perfect. And that is my role in the front end development, mostly just HTML, CSS, and some JavaScript. And besides all of that, I do have some experience with mobile as well, but I don't put a lot of those mobile work on my portfolio because I want to be a lot more focused on web. But if you would like to see more, I'm happy to send out like quite a few mobile projects to you guys. That is what I will answer to those questions. So next is, how do you do, what is your design process? So your design process, I think it doesn't matter if you're logo, if you are doing, products, if you're doing whatever, then they would like to know more about like how can you get from A to Z, right? Then this is what my answer for, especially for product design. So yeah, my design process, I think it's definitely, it depends on the team. Sometimes we'll jump right into the project, but like if I'm designing something from start to finish, and that is what the process looks like. So the first one is definitely user research, right? So we need to understand, what is the problem that we're trying to solve, and potentially we'll talk to some potential users and trying to understand their problems, issue, pain points. And with those, right, user research done, then we'll take those results and to come up with a product spec or product requirements. And what this document is basically how are we going to tackle those issues, right? So we will come up with the features and planning for the product in a kind of like a Word document form. So with that, right, then we will make sure that we hit all of those pain points with our features or product for the platform or for the app that we're building. Once when we have that document done, then the next phase is the product mapping tool. So I'll come up with the product map for the entire platform. So basically, if you look at this product map, you will be able to see, how the product function, how can user go from like the home page to whatever step that we have for the products, right? So this mapping is just basically providing a view for the entire product, so how pages will link together. And once when we have the product mapping phase part done, then we'll move forward to the prototyping part. So prototyping, most of the time I'll come up with a wireframe for the prototype. So if you look at my portfolio, there are a lot of work that is black and white, and those are the wireframes that I come up with based on the spec documents and also the product map. So each of these pages, each of these little box in your product map is like one page. So I will create the bigger version of the page and based on product spec again. And with this kind of wireframe prototype, you can click through the entire products, and you can really dive into the functionality part of the entire thing without caring about the visual, which is going to come next. So when we have the prototype for the visual, for the prototype for the wireframes and all that, clicking prototype, then we can invite some of the users that we have done in the user research part and just ask them about questions about our products now and see if those design that we make solve this kind of user problems, right? So what we are trying to do is ask them to kind of use our products and see where do they click on the products and make notes about their struggles and all that. So there's like a user prototyping and user research part, user interview part, and just make sure that our functionality is good to go. And when everything is done, then the last step is to make the product look good and basically putting on colors, making sure that all the typography is on point, making sure that the entire thing is pixel perfect, and then also like the colors and everything. So this is the phase where we'll make the product to look pretty. So that is usually the phase for the entire product design. And once when we launch it, then I believe that we get a lot more user feedback. Then the whole process can be a bit more agile, going from there back and then do the testing again, launch again, and test again. So a lot more agile from there, but that is usually the process for designing a product. That is pretty long, but that is the answer that I'm gonna give for the product design process. They're really trying to know about your process because that is very, very important for them. So you should be a lot more details about this. So moving on is the more like product design focused question. How do you do user research and how do you verify your design ideas and prototype? And this question may not apply to other designers that much if you're not doing UI and UX, but if you are, then this is a question that they're definitely going to ask you during the interview. And if you don't do a lot of user research, you can just tell them why. So that is my answer. Honestly, I don't really do a lot of user research, and the reason why is because a lot of my client or the company that I work with, they have already done a bunch of research. So there's something that I can always find from their current users and just something that is working, something that is not working, and I can take a look at the research that is done and pull out any information from those current research. So for example, if they have done any kind of questionnaire, then I can analyze that questionnaire, the answer from those questionnaires, and just trying to find what are the questions that are being asked the most and what are the questions that what are the problem they have the most, and coming up with the product spec based on those research that is done. But if you haven't done any of those research already, then I'm definitely happy to help you to answer some people and just send in questionnaires and all that kind of things as well. But just based on my experience, a lot of times, a lot of research has been done, so we don't have to spend a lot of time to answer that again. But for the prototyping testing ideas, I think that is a very good one that I do all the time. Is like I said, after we have the prototyping phase, then we will definitely have to find some people to test it. So these people that you interview originally in the user research phase, then I'll be able to talk to these people and have them to jump on a call and basically just show them the prototype and see how they're gonna use it. So every single time we'll ask some questions about, if you're on this page right now, where are you gonna click on, right? So based on their interaction of the product, then we can make notes and see, where did they get stuck and how are we gonna fix them. So these are the phases that we will definitely have to test with the potential users, and that is what I will do, basically just jumping on calls with the potential users and just trying to ask them a lot of questions and see how they're gonna use our products and these kind of ideas and stuff. Then we can all test it in the prototyping phase and make notes and all that. So that is my answer to that question. So again, like that may not apply to you, but if you're UI UX designer, then that is something to take note of. Coming next again is how do you handle feedback? So this question doesn't matter who you are. If you're interviewing, then definitely you have to take a lot of feedback. If you're a designer, then feedback from your client, feedback from your boss, feedback from your teams, and all that kind of thing. So that is my answer to it. So I totally understand that, sometimes design is very hard to judge and there's no like right or wrong about design. So when I get feedback on my design, I never really take it too harshly. Like my design may work for me, but I believe that, the client or the potential user is really the user of the product. And to be a successful product, I believe that, everybody should have a good experience for that. And if only I have a good experience about this product, then that is not a good product. So usually I will just determine the functionality or determine the effectiveness of what I design based on, again, like on the user feedback. So if the user have a very good experience about that, then I'll try to tweak it. Then I think it's good. But like if they don't, then I'll definitely tweak it until they have a very good experience with that. So I never take it very personally. I believe that everybody's experience is kind of different. So I would just make the call based on the end user feedback on whatever I get. So that is what I would say about this question as well. Like how do you handle feedback, right? And so what design tool do you use? I think this one is, again, right, I think it's very important because every single team right now, they kind of use their own design tool. So if you're working with a team that uses Figma, then they would like you to use Figma as well. So that is what I would answer. So me right now, I am moving towards Figma a lot more than before. So before I was using Sketch, and even before that I was using Photoshop to do all of my UI elements, or if you're a local designer, you use AI. So right now currently I'm using a lot more on Figma, but it really depends on the team. I'm very flexible, and if you guys are using even Adobe XD, I think you can learn about the whole software very quickly, because I believe that all of these software, they all share a lot of similarity. So I'm a quick learner, so if you guys are using different software, I can definitely pick up. But right now, for the most part, I'm using Figma a lot, and it's a very good software. That is what I would say about the design tool. So next question: are you familiar with developments, and how do you work with engineers? So this one is, again, right, a bit more focused on web designer or UI and UX designer. So that is what I would say about this. And so yeah, I'm definitely very familiar with development, and like I mentioned, I develop a lot of my own design. So I do a lot of coding, especially for the front end coding, like HTML, CSS for my products, and I just want to make sure that they're pixel perfect. And then after I finish the design, I'll pass on the file to my developers. So all of these handles through GitHub or Bitbucket. So basically, I will submit all my coding to there, and then they can collaborate with me on the entire project. So I'm pretty comfortable moving file between the design and development. But if I don't do the development myself, then I can help the developer to prep all the assets about all my design, so I can have all separate folder for all the icons and everything, so that the developer can just like take my design and move it on over there. And also I usually do things in a grid as well. So if they look at InVision, or if they look at my Figma file, they can already see how I use my grid system. So that will help them to do a better job to code out the interface. So that is, again, the answer to that question. So moving on again, how much do you charge? So how much do you charge is really a question that focus on freelancer, right? Like if you're going to a full-time design position, they're not going to ask you this question right away, maybe at the end of the interview. But I think this question is very important. If you're a freelancer, then that is just kind of help you to not lose a client. So that is a very important question set. That is how I'm going to answer. So yeah, my price, or like how much I charge, is really depend on the clients. I charge a pretty big range, so it really depends on how big the size of the business is. Of course, if I work with a startup, that is going to be a lot cheaper, but if I work with a big company, then I'll tend to charge a bit higher. And also, I don't really charge hourly rates, and I much prefer to charge per project. So, but then again, right, it really depends on the clients, and if you have a product that is ongoing, then maybe hourly rates make a bit more sense. But to just give you a ballpark, hourly rate is somewhere between $75 or $80 to $100 or $110. And when I work with a startup, they may pay you $80, or when I work with, let's say, Square, they pay me about like $100 per hour, and that is my hourly rate. But then again, right, like hourly rate is so hard to guess like how much you're eventually gonna pay me, and that's why I think charging per project is make a lot more sense. A website design from design to finish may only cost you $5,000 if you think about that, right? So that makes it a lot more reasonable. So that is kind of like what I would tell them, and usually I will ask them about the budget first, but if they don't tell me about the budget, and that is what I would say about the pricing point. And you don't want to mention like going back to the even if they want to just ask about the hourly rates, right? You do want to bring them back to the project price, because like I said, right, five grand for a website in their mind is make a lot more sense than paying you $100 per hour, right? So that is what I would say about this question, like how much do you charge? And we only have two left, and the two is, where do you see yourself in 3 years? So for this questions, and I think this is, like if you're just taking contract work, they're not gonna care about where do you see yourself in 3 years. But when I'm interviewing for a full-time job, every single time they will ask you about this question. Where do you see yourself in 3 years? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? And all of these things, right? So that is what I would tell them about my plan for 3 years. So I'll just tell them, right now I don't really know, but like I'm running a side product called Clascity, so that is my platform that I have going on the side. But I'm also doing a lot of clients work, which I really love. So I believe that in the next 5 years, I really do hope that I can be more comfortable running my own business. But at the same time, I don't think I'll ever stop designing, because design is just what I love, and I will still taking on clients. So if we work together for a long period of time, I do hope that we can continue this relationship moving forward, and that is usually what I would say. But I mean, I'm gonna tweak it for sure. If I interview with Apple, right, then my answer will be totally different. So, but that is what usually I would say about that. So moving to the last question is, like, how did you have any more question for me? And I think that any kind of interview that you go to, they'll definitely ask you about this. And that is basically before you end the interview. And I think this is a good time that if you want to learn more about the culture of the company, and that is the time to ask, and that is the questions that I'm going to ask when I'm asked this question. So yeah, definitely I would like to learn more about the design team. So how many people do you have in the design team right now, and how do they work together? So they will tell you about that. And then after that, I'll ask about, like, so what is the culture in the company? So how everybody kind of collaborates, and what kind of tools do you guys use, and all that kind of thing. So they'll tell you about that again. And also, like, what is the roadmap of the products? Like, what do you, like, what is the next big things that you're trying to build, and that show you that you care about the products and care about the roadmaps, and you want to know if that is something that you'll be interested in doing. And that is, a few questions that I'm gonna ask. I'm not gonna ask them like 10 different questions, but like 2 to 3 is a good number. And that is pretty much it. Like that is a very, very hell of a long videos, and I hope that like you get something out of this video. And if you guys have any questions, if you know anything that I didn't mention in here before, then feel free to ask me in the comment section down below, and I'll definitely talk to you guys next time. Cheers.